Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Shakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Keshikara Vamshivata Dwarasha Kana Keshikara Vamshivata Dwarasha Kana Jaha Sava Lila Koila Shinandananda Jaha Sava Lila Koila Shinandananda Shinanda Yashoda Jaya Jaya Gopaka Jaya Gopaka Shridamari Jaya Jaya Teno Vatsagam Shridamari Jaya Jaya Vatsagam Jaya Vishwabhanu Jai Kirtira Sundari Jaya Visha Vanu Jaya Kirtira Sundari Jaya Purna Masi Jaya Abhira Nagari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Nagari Jaya Jaya Gopishwar Vrindavana Jaya Jaya Gopishwara Vrindavana Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Bhattu Vichara Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Bhatta Vicharam Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Gatha Jaya Rohini Nanda Jaya Rama Gatha Jaya Rohini Nanda Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vasudha Siddhan Jaya Dvija Patni Jaya Naga Kanyagan Bhakti Te Jara Pailo Govinda Charan Shira Samandala Jaya Jaya Radha Shyam Jai Jai Rasalila Sarvamanoram Jaya Jaya Svala Rasa Sava Rasa Sat Parakiya Bhavijaha Prajite Prachar Shri Jannava Pada Padma Kore Asmaran Dina Krishna Dasa Kohe Nam Sankirtan Dina Krishna Dasa Kohe Nam Sankirtan We'll go back to number 7. Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nandan Jaya Rama Gata Jaya Rohini Nandan Jaya Jaya Vrindavan Bhakti Jati Jan Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Shri Govinda Gopinatha Madhanohan Samakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Go Premanandi Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Gaunitai ki. Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki. Shri Krishna Balaram ki. Shri Balaram Rasayatra ki. Shri Krishna Vasanta Rasayatra ki. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Ngarang. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachardine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachate Shatardine. I'll just read the translation for 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. Verses from this song, number 7. All glories to Ramagat. How many of you have been to Ramagat? You must have been to Ramagat. Anyone else has been? Been Ramagat? Ananga, you've been? Generally speaking, if you go on Braj Mandal Parikrama, the whole Braj, you'll definitely go there. And quite often, if you go with Dinabandhu Prabhu, you may visit Ramagat. And there, as well as being the holy place where Lord Balarama performed his rasa dance, you will also, maybe still, I don't know when I last went, it's probably 12 years maybe, but you'll probably see some snakes there. Have you seen the snakes? Maybe you have to go in a little bit from the river, but near the village, you generally will find quite a few people with snakes in a basket, you know. And if you give a little money, the snake will start dancing. Yes. Maybe no longer, I don't know. But I've seen that. And anyway, of course, Lord Balaram, one of his expansions is who other than Anantashesha, huh? Isn't it? Yes. The couch of Lord Vishnu and a holder, sustainer of the universe, practically, we could say. And he appears with many, like snake hoods. So this is a special place for Lord Balaram, and a place for the snakes too. So all glories to Ramagat, where Lord Balaram performed his rasa dance. So last night or tonight there was a debate. I saw there was a debate. It was I listened to a part. I didn't listen to it actually. I listened to the first paragraph maybe or whatever of Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj lecturing today or yesterday on this event on the was he lecturing on this? No, he was lecturing on the appearance of Radha Kund, but it's the same day, so there's a question whether it was last night or tonight. Question came up. I don't know, but anyway, whatever it is. During the night, Lord Balaram participates in this Rasa Leela, and of course he is you could say Prabhupada said, our strength, and here we have Lord Balaram in his most magnificent form. As many of you know, our deity minister, Nrsimha Kavacha Prabhu, when he came here last time, some years ago, I don't know when, some years ago, said that to him, Lord Balaram is here, the most beautiful deity in ISKCON. The most beautiful deity in ISKCON. And he's very special here in Mayapur, there's no doubt. Yes. All over, devotees, they like to come here just to see Lord Balaram sometimes. It's some very special relationship. Of course, we're trying to be members of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan, so Lord Balaram is really our shelter, our inspiration, in his form of Balaram, also in the form of Nityananda, of course. So he's here in both forms. And Prabhupada invited him here, so we're very fortunate, and he did whatever. He's performing his Rasa Leela. Maybe I don't suggest you try to go. We don't have the eyes to see, but who knows tonight what Lord Balaram will be doing. So all glories to Lord Ramagat, where Lord Balaram performed his Rasa dance. All glories to Lord Balaram, the son of Rohini. That's why he's Rohini Nandan, son of Rohini. All glories to all the residents of Vrindavan. I'll jump forward a little bit. All glories to the place where the Rasa dance of Sri Krishna was performed, because tonight also Krishna Vasanta Ras tonight also. So end of spring, and this is one of the special Rasa dance or events when Krishna also has his Rasa dance in a different place, not at Ramgat, somewhere else. All glories to Radha and Shyam. All glories to the divine Rasa dance, which is the most beautiful of all of Lord Krishna's pastimes. We could say the same thing about Lord Balaram's pastimes. Huh? All glories to the mellow of conjugal love. And Lord Balaram is kind of interesting. He is he's the Adi Guru. He's the original Guru in for every devotee. And in every rasa, there, Lord Balaram, here's a direct example of it. It's not that just one of his expansions is Ananga Manjari, but he's also directly engaged here in rasa dance, in Rasa Leela, directly. So, obviously, it's, I guess, but it would be in the mood of conjugal love, which is the most excellent of all rasas and is propagated in Braj by Sri Krishna in the form of the divine Parakiya Bhav, paramour love, in the mood. Remembering the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda's consort, Sri Janava Devi, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, sings the Sankirtan of the holy name. And as Lord Nityananda had 2 wives, what were their names? Janava, yeah, we just heard. And who was the other one? Vasudha. 2 sisters, they were his wives. And Lord Balaram had 2 wives. Who were they? Yes, Revati and, you said it, I think, Varuni. Amazing, huh? Married to a pot of honey? Imagine if somebody, temple person, said, tomorrow you're getting married. It used to, not like that now, but there were times, and some of you may remember, back in the 70s, that sometimes it was a little like, the temple president or the GBC or someone saying, Prabhu, we've decided you're getting married tomorrow. Who am I getting married? You'll find out. Imagine if you sat there with a pot of honey next to you. You might be happy with that, actually. It'd be easier. Nectar. But it wasn't exactly that he married a pot of honey. But Vruni personified appears in this form as a nectar service to her eternal Lord. She appears in this form to satisfy his desires. This is devotion, so service to the Lord. So Lord Balaram's 2 wives or consorts expanded as Janava and Vasudha. I think that Revati is Janava and Varuni is Vasudha. As I heard, I can't remember. I think that's correct. So all glories to them and their wonderful pastimes, which are, of course, eternally going on and are relished. And we'll hear about that in a minute. But for our benefit, what benefits can we get out of this pastime? You may know more after we've read it, but many of you know this pastime. Is there anything we can learn from this pastime? Think about it. Is there anything we can benefit from hearing this pastime? Let's see. We'll read it and then think about it. Huh? Put it on, perhaps, filter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lord Balaram and Krishna are in Dwarka. And Krishna's always remembering his devotees in Vrindavan and pining for them. And even his wives sometimes wonder what to do. Her husband is always thinking of the residents of Vrindavan. There was one time when Krishna, in his sleep, was just calling out the name of the gopis, and Rukmini was feeling uncomfortable in a sense. She said, more or less, you seem to be so attached to the residents of Vrindavan. What about me? And he really said the wrong thing. He said, I can give up my devotees in Dwarka. I can give up what's the name of that special that house where they would meet? What's it called? Sudharma Hall? Something like that. The special, wonderful. Anyway, I can give all these things up, but I can never give my devotees up in Vrindavan. Well, Rukmini wasn't too inspired by that. Anyway, different stories. If you go to Pandapur, you'll hear the whole story. She left him. She packed her bags and went off. So the story goes. I don't know where it's from, Lokanath Maharaj tells it. And she went to Pandharpur. And Krishna went there. That's how Lord Vital, Krishna came there looking for her. And it's a long story. It's not directly to do with this. It's another devotee called Pundalik, that he stayed there in this deity form and she's also there in a deity form of Rukmini in Pandharpur. So they were fixed. Lord Balaram became, Krishna was very anxious, but the residents of Vrindavan were not very anxious about him going because they were very worried he wouldn't come back. So somehow or another they negotiated and Balaram went instead. So Balaram was very anxious to see his father and mother in Vrindavan. Therefore, with great enthusiasm, he started on a chariot for Vrindavan. Therefore, the inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up. But still, on his arrival, they all embraced him, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yasoda and offered his respectful obeisances. In response, Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishwar, or the Lord of the universe who maintains everyone. The reason for this was that Krishna and Balaram maintain all living entities. And yet Nanda and Yasoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram and, seating him on their laps, began their perpetual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. And this is a natural, especially motherly affection for her son, that even though he's 50 years, 60 years old even, if the mother's still alive, still to her, he's her pet son, especially in India. You see this very much. That they still treat their son might be a big politician or a big businessman, but still they treat him just like their little son. That's their heart, the mood. So Nanda and Yasoda, the same thing. It's actually coming from them. Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age and friendship, and with loud laughing embraced each one of them. Shook hands. That's what Prabhupada's written here. We hear Lord Balaram also, Lord Brahma rather. The Lord shook hands with Lord Brahma in the Bhagavatam. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis, and King Nanda and Yasoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied. And they all surrounded him. I get that again. He was received by the cowherd men, boys, gopis, King Nanda and Yasoda, and then Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. Since they had not seen him for a very long time, they began to ask him different questions. Normal. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything else, like elevation to the heavenly planets, or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. Nothing else. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits. And they were all so much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balaramji. First, Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Mai inquired, "My dear Balaram, are our friends like Vasudeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown-up married men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda Devi? It is very good news that the most sinful King Kamsa had been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudeva and the others who have been harassed have now been relieved. It is also good news that you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha and Kalyavana, who is now dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarka." When the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarkapuri. And then they started asking, does he sometimes remember his father Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yasoda? And does he remember us gopis, who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna may have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwarka, but as far as we are concerned, we still remember him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. We're doing that for Krishna, even though he didn't seem like he was there. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time in crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dashara, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members. But although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives. But then Krishna, without caring a pinch for our renunciation, all of a sudden renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us." Protesting Krishna's absence from Vrindavan, another gopi said, "My dear Balaramji, we are village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwarka? I don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women might be misled by Krishna, but the women in the city of Dwarka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore, I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words." Then another gopi began to speak. "My dear friend," she said, "Krishna is very clever in using words. No one can compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively. And by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and give themselves to him without reservation." Another gopi, after hearing this, said, "My dear friends, what is the use of talking about Krishna? If you are all interested in passing time by talking, let us talk on some other subject matter, other than him. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Oh, of course, however, Krishna is passing his days without us very happily. Oh, but we cannot pass our days happily without him. When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense. And they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and they cried without consideration. Lord Balarama, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal, and thus treating the gopis very respectfully, he began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. Again, we hear again and again that there's no real difference between hearing about Krishna, the name of Krishna, and Krishna himself. Hearing the pastimes, they're experiencing directly the association of Krishna. So Balaram, the spiritual master, he again here is, you could say, acting in a way. The spiritual master's business is to act in such a way that devotees develop an attraction towards Krishna. So in this way, he's speaking in such a way that their attraction towards Krishna not only getting deeper and deeper and deeper, but they're actually feeling directly the experience of being with Krishna. He began to keep the gopis in Vrindavan satisfied. Lord Balaram stayed there continuously for 2 months, which is in the months of Chaitra, March, April, and Vishaka, April, May. For those 2 months he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vrindavan to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus Balaram also enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during these 2 months. I don't think Prabhupada mentions here, but it's in the Bhagavatam, and it's in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I'll finish the paragraph in case he does. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the bank of the Jamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially the flowers known as kumudi. And perhaps you've noticed, I don't know, but if you walk in the forest sometimes, there are some, I don't know the name of this flower. There's one white one and one yellow one that grow in, in little bunches here and there in the forest. And you can smell the fragrance from many, many meters away. It's very, very uplifting. And in springtime, when all the flowers are blooming, blossoming, blooming, and their scent is so sweet. So, and the little breeze just carries that beautiful fragrance. So the forests were completely full of these beautiful fragrances. Since the season was spring, the breeze on the bank of the Jamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers. Moonlight filled the sky and spread everywhere. And thus the banks on the Jamuna appeared very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. I don't know if any of you went out last night in the night to see the full moon. You did, huh? Gopaswami Prabhu, took advantage of this opportunity. I also went for a little walk early in the morning in the full moon. A very wonderful association. Yeah, you just feel some special mercy from Chandra, from the moon. Very bright and pleasing, and Lord Balaram enjoyed the company of the gopis there. Okay, Prabhupada does not mention it, but in the purports and in the commentaries, it describes, although Balaram satisfied everyone, the gopis with whom Krishna performed Rasa Leela were by then fully mature, grown-up ladies, basically speaking, and he was actually performing Rasa dance with another set of gopis. He had his own gopis. It wasn't the same ones that Krishna was dancing with. We'd assume on this day, as on the calendar we see Krishna Vasant Ras, that Krishna was also performing Rasa dance with his gopis somewhere else. So a very special day. And they never really grow old, but they're, in that sense, they remain, as far as I understand, they remain ever useful, practically speaking. The demigod, known as Varuna, what does Varuna do normally? Well, he's a demigod. What's his role? Who knows? Varuna. What's his role? Yeah, he's the presiding deity of the oceans, the water, and so on like that. Yeah. So he has a daughter, and his daughter is named Varuni. She appeared. Varuna, very good service, huh? He sent his daughter Varuni in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. What is that? There are some trees, right? They have this, especially in America, they like this. What is it called? Huh? Maple trees, isn't it? They're maple syrup, huh? You know maple syrup? I don't know if you have it here, but in America and Canada, they love it, huh? Maple syrup. Yeah, it's very sweet. Very sweet. I don't know, maybe it's related also, but here it's liquid honey, literally honey, oozing from the hollows of the trees. Well, she came in that form, so you don't need bees when Varuni comes in that form. However, it's very auspicious today. I don't know if you know that Jivananda Prabhu and Namacharya Prabhu had, maybe you didn't go, but about 4 or 5 days ago, Namacharya they captured a beehive, a wild beehive, and they harnessed it into a box, and they took the box to Katasta's farm, because you've got to take the bees at least 5 kilometers away from your property, otherwise they keep going back to the same spot, because there's nothing there anymore, they just die. So, and if you take them at a distance, they don't fly, they just zoom around above for some time apparently until they find their bearings, and they work in that area. So then after 4 or 5 days, they get accustomed, then you bring them back here and they relocate, and they forget their old property after 4 or 5 days. So it's all science, beekeeping. I don't know, I just heard it from them. So they brought them back today. They came back to Mayapur today, the bees. So I saw them down there this evening. Yeah. And they came back on Balarama Rasa Yatra, so I hope they'll come back to satisfy Lord Balaram. Yes. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic. It means very sweet fragrance, sweet smell. Aroma. And the sweet aroma of the liquid honey Varuni captivated Balaramji. Balaramji and all the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of the Varuni, and all of them drank it together. I don't know, you had the Varuni beverage lunchtime? Maybe some of you, they made Varuni beverage lunchtime. Did you taste it? Yeah, noon, lunchtime. Good? Great. Like a nectar. How many cups did you drink? 2. Only 2. Oh. We sometimes on this day, I haven't seen it for a long time, but in New Zealand when we were there, on this day was literally speaking, the temple room was full of drunken devotees. Not so bad. But sometime there was one, I remember Kela Tirtha, he drank about 18 cups of this Varuni beverage. And he was gone. And Varshan, she was only about 3 years old. Nobody knew what was happening. She drank 3 or 4 cups and she was rolling on the floor. Amazing girl. She used to go out on book distribution when she was 2 years old. Amazing devotee. Anyway, while drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni beverage. We're not Lord Balaram, don't forget. I can't imitate. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balaram smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared like soothing morning dew. You see these little, droplets of water sometimes on the leaves. It's very cool and soothing. While Balaram was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis in the water of the Jamuna. Therefore he called the Jamuna to come nearby. Jamuna! Jamuna, come here. Jamuna! But the Jamuna neglected the order of Balaramji, considering him intoxicated. Like on Sankirtan, you experience that on Harinam many times, some drunken person. Hey, come here. You don't always go, Sometimes you do, but not always. They're completely drunk, and it usually ends up with some not very favorable situation. Sometimes we do. But Jamuna didn't. This guy's intoxicated. Lord Balaram became very much displeased at the Jamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plowshare. Lord Balaram has 2 weapons. Of course, most of us know what they are. What are those 2 weapons? A plow and a club. Club. Moksha. He wanted to punish the Jamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed Jamuna, "You wretched river, you did not come for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come to me voluntarily. Now with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams." When the Jamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Balaram and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying thus: "My dear Balaram, you are the most powerful personality, and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious, exalted position, but now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion, Shesha. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full with 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your order, and thus I become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a soul surrendered unto you, who are very affectionate to your devotees. Therefore please excuse my impudence and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy may you now release me." Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Jamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balaram enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her waters along with the gopis in the same way that an elephant enjoys himself along with his many she-elephants. After a long time, when Lord Balaram had enjoyed to his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately One of the goddesses of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After bathing in the Jamuna, Lord Balaram, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balaram's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra in the heavenly planets. The river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balaram, and all these branches of the river Yamuna still glorify the omnipotence of Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months. And time passed so quickly that all those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of Lord Balaram, all the gopis and other inhabitants of Vrindavan became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of both brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. Thus end the purport of the 65th chapter of Krishna. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. And before we just ask if there's anything you can, let's say, see that a lesson to learn or something we can benefit from this pastime, in the commentaries, there are different commentaries on this pastime, and they're not very extensive. Mostly Prabhupada has summarized these various commentaries in his purport, or his summarization here. But in the Harivamsa Purana, which Prabhupada quotes many, many times, by the way, very unusual, it's available in English. And there the commentary, apparently is written by Vyasadeva. It is mentioned there that the river Jamuna previously at that point was running in a straight course, and by Balaram's grace, the Jamuna then surrendered when he put his plough right on the edge, the bank of the river, and pulled it this way and that way, so the river then became flowing like this. And why it's in many different streams also is very nice, because it irrigates the land for miles around. Different other factors were there, beneficial factors, you could say. But he made the river very beautiful, winding, meandering like this, with his plowshare. So Jamuna is an expansion of Jamuna, of Kalindi, who appeared there very happily saying that, yes, I will follow your plowshare now. As he surrendered and just followed wherever, like drawing. And a beautiful description is also given there of Lord Balaram, how he looked when he was intoxicated. I don't have it here, so I'm not going to read it. So what can we learn from this pastime? Anything? Don't, huh?
Spiritual life's not void.
Spiritual life is indeed not void. It's full of pastimes, which in this world are reflections. Many of these pastimes, we also have, maybe not exactly in detail, but similar things may occur. People get drunk, they have parties, something happens, some trouble, different things. Reflect in this world, and what's the difference? Is it the same? Spiritual? Yeah, Lord Balaram's pastimes are on the spiritual platform, and this material world, imitative reflection, is on the material platform. And what's the effect of? Is there something we can learn from the effect of the two?
We become attracted.
Great. We can become attracted. We may be attracted to the reflection also, but what's the result of being attracted to the reflection? When we say reflection, we mean, people trying to do these things, getting intoxicated, enjoying, parties and whatever, orgies, whatever they call them. Pardon? Contamination. And many times, great distress ends up in great problems, many problems evolve. We're Anandamaya Besat, we're looking for that pleasure, but we're looking the wrong way. And what's the result of the real one or the pure one, of he becoming attracted to that? Although it sounds, from a mundane point of view, this just sounds like ordinary business going on here. There's some extra kind of like, mythological things attached to it. But it sounds like ordinary dealings. It's, families and girls and enjoying it during the night, and dancing and getting drunk and cursing people and different things. From a mundane point of view. But what's the difference if you hear or become attracted to Balarama and the Rasa Leela? What's the difference?
It is said.
Excuse me?
It is said that it's taking the lust out of the heart.
Last one?
It's taking the lust out.
Take away the lust.
Take the lust. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it is. If we hear it from the right source in the right way, it can remove the lust, the reflection of real love. In the world we have lust, and we want to enjoy different relationships and so on. And based on pure love, ultimately, so it takes away the lust of the reflection of pure love. And is that it? Finished?
It gives friend bhakti.
It awakens our attraction or the love within our hearts. It may take time, of course, because our surrender, just like Jamuna, she didn't surrender straight away. It took a little time. Lord Balarama, as the spiritual master, is giving instruction. He gave her instruction. She didn't follow it, right? And the result was she got the plow. So this is Balarama's spiritual master expansion of Balarama, not, you could say physically or in form, but in terms of the instruction, carrying that strength or the instruction of Balarama. And if we deny it or go against it, then we get the same thing. We're going to be plowed or whacked with a club. It may come in different ways. Yes, that's another lesson we can learn. What happens when you don't follow the instructions of the spiritual master, etc. What else? Yeah, that was there, wasn't it? He is the supreme enjoyer. And when we're in relationship with the supreme enjoyer, when we're not in relationship with the supreme enjoyer, we're trying to enjoy, and we get some mixture, duality. When we're in relationship with the supreme enjoyer, and Prabhupada gives the example when a king has his servants or whatever, they also are they're in the same place, they're watching the same thing, they're eating the same food, basically. They're getting the same facilities, more or less, without even having the responsibility of the king. So when we're in that mood or in that pure relationship with Krishna, the devotee also experiences, of course, we're very, you could say in quantity there's a great difference, but the same quality of pleasure or love without asking for it, when we become free of this I want mentality in sense separate from Krishna. When we develop the mood of I want to please Krishna, I want to Varuni appeared simply to satisfy Lord Balaram. Right? So you see, this is devotion. She appeared to bring pleasure to Lord Balaram, bring pleasure to her Lord. So similarly, when more we cultivate this mood of doing things for the pleasure of Balaram or Krishna, the spiritual master, the connecting to the Lord, then the more Krishna reciprocates. The more happy he is. He's very happy with Varuni. Ultimately, he was happy with Jamuna too, but at first she didn't remit herself, so he became angry. Not because he wanted to be, but because he wanted the spiritual master may sometimes become angry because we heard this morning how Hridaya Chaitanya became angry with Shyamananda. And Shyamananda was very happy. He said, my spiritual master is recognizing me. I should be happy. He wasn't, I believe in you, I'm not going to have you anymore, I'm going to look for another guru somewhere. No, he was seeing it very transcendentally. What else can we learn? Is there maybe some other things? I don't know. We covered quite a bit there, didn't we? I didn't make a note as we went along. I don't know if any of you did. So, yes.
Sorry for this one. Swimming is a Vaishnava sport.
Great. Okay, it's related, huh? So we should all go down to the lake tonight and have a swim in the lake and have a Vasa dance on the bank of the lake. The bees are down that way. We can take some honey as we go, maybe. Here's another one. In the material world, the gopis here, when Balarama was talking with the gopis and how they were, some of their expressions were relevant to us, I think. That they were saying, what could be relevant? How they gave up their families for Krishna? Huh?
Is Krishna really, appreciating?
Is he appreciating? Yeah, I guess we have that in the material world when we're in separation. Is the person really, how they feel about me and so on? Get a little bit of an experience of that, but they were so intensely concerned. Is Krishna remembering us? They said he may forget us, being surrounded by the ladies of the city. Huh? He may be happy there, enjoying. He's got his wives and family members now. He may be happy, right? He may be, but we're not. We can't be happy without Krishna. Of course, they were absorbed in Krishna. There's another thing called Vipulamba Bhav, but in one sense, they were saying, we're suffering so much, we can pitiably stay here just crying and crying without him. When will he come back? They're showing us the mood. We're here in this world, we could say, and Krishna's everywhere, but we don't necessarily understand his personal presence everywhere or even have remembrance of it or experience of it. But this is to help us to realize that this is the mood which brings, as we heard, Krishna literally appeared there with them. They become so absorbed that they were feeling that Krishna's actually there with them, completely. So many devotees to remember that Krishna is with us. The more we become absorbed in trying to remember him in various ways, and the more we'll experience Krishna's presence. And what else? I'm sure there's many little things under the surface we could pick up from this.
We can remember.
You say wrestling is a sport, but no.
We can remember the verse. Ramante, Yuginanante, Satyananda, Chitanani, Kirama, Padinasho, Ambama, Vidyate.
Can you translate it? In English or French?
That the sages or yogis, they are not interested in anything material. They just take pleasure in the transcendental activity of the pure soul, service to the flowing service to the Lord, experiencing,
This type of mood of only, taking this pleasure in hearing or remembering Krishna, talking about him, making gardens, even though he's not coming. You may sometimes wonder, what am I doing this for? Where's Krishna? How is he reciprocating? But that's not the point. The point is we're developing this mood of doing everything in consciousness of Krishna for his pleasure. This mood of it takes away, it cleanses. The more we can develop this kind of, as you were saying, how the yogis, they have no interest in anything else. This is the higher taste. That they're absorbed in a higher taste. And automatically, it's not a matter of restraining oneself from the objects of the senses, which may be one stage in yoga, and to a certain extent in our lives also. But ultimately, it's actually being absorbed in Krishna Katha, absorbed in hearing and remembering Krishna, chanting about it. then automatically there's no room left. There's no space left. We can't space out anymore. There's no space to space out into. We're completely absorbed in service when hearing and chanting. That's the secret. As the gopis and every resident of Vrindavan. This is Vrindavan. Completely absorbed. And they become fearless. They're going into the forest in the dead of night. In the presence of Balaram, one becomes fearless. No fear. Okay, well it's 8:10. We'll finish there. You can think about it. Go over it if you wish tonight and just try to absorb ourselves in the pastimes of Krishna.
It's right to say that, I don't know, like feeling from Balaram, you feel like comfortable. With Krishna, it's all kind of different mood with Krishna. With Balaram, just pleasing. He's strong, protective, and enjoying. Nice. Krishna, you never know exactly, what's going on.
Safer to take shelter of Balaram,
yeah.
huh? Yeah, well, we have to go through Lord Balaram. Once Lord Balaram is pleased, then we have his eternal associates too. But we have to go through the Lord Balaram before we can expect the mercy of Radha and Krishna. And it may become revealed. He's not so accessible, I would say. Balaram is more accessible.
Yeah, it's more simple.
Yeah, more simple, more we can easier to relate to. Nityananda, in a sense, you could say the same.
Yeah.
Because that's their role, to help us to you can say nothing's, it is simple, but that's we're complicated, so everything appears a little complicated. The more complicated we are, the more complicated it may appear. So Lord Chaitanya has made it very simple, and Nityananda has delivered that simplicity to the universe in the form of Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Sant Rasayatra ki jai, Shri Balaram Rasayatra ki jai, Srila Shamananda Prabhu Avirbhav Mahotsav ki, Shri Vamsivadana Avirbhav Mahotsav ki jai, Shri Radhakund appearance ki jai, Go Premanandi, O Glorious Shri Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani, Namaste Saraswate Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvasesha Sunyavari, Pastyachade Shatarine. Jai Prabhupada.